be going live now. So, welcome everyone. Again, welcome to our virtual book club. We do this every month, except for March and December, on the third Sunday of the month, always at the same time, 4:30 in the afternoon, Pacific time. If you're on the West Coast, it's always 4:30 on. We do West Coast time because we don't do the time change in Arizona. Yes. And that's
here it will be 5:30 next month. I just wanted to clarify that.
That's true. That's true. Okay. For us, we get to change while everybody else stays the same. But for the rest of you, if you don't live in Arizona or Indiana, or elsewhere that they don't do daylight savings time, it stays the same, 4:30 p.m. Pacific time, and whatever it is in your region of the world. I always tell people, whatever time it is in Seattle, plug that in and do the Google time zone converter, and Bob's your uncle. So, yes, Karen says it's daylight savings time now where she is in Australia, 10 a.m., very bright and early, time for that first cup of tea, Karen. So, my darlings, this is our book, Queen Victoria's Book of Spells, edited by the absolutely stunning Ellen Datlow and Terri Windling, who are sort of legends in the fantasy and horror genres. Now, Bill loves horror and writes horror, and that's horror with many R's, I should clarify. And I love science fiction and fantasy. We do obviously have a lot of overlap. Bill, you like lots of things as well, but Bill's bringing you the horror experience, and I'm bringing you the science fiction fantasy experience. And so I discovered this when it initially came out in 2013, which has been a minute, and so it's a bit of an older book, but I don't think it got enough accolade when it came out originally, and I'm very excited to share it with all of you now. I think that the stories age very well, and that it's a fantastic collection. So what I'm going to do to start us off is we're going to go around the room, and I would like everyone to share not your ultimate. You could have a list of 10 favorites for all I know, but one of your favorite short stories in the collection and why you liked it. And so, Karen, I'm starting with you.
Stop laughing, Bill. Probably the Queen Victoria Book of Spells, the first one, and also Smithfield were. Well, and there was lots of other ones, but they're probably the most ones. Well, Queen Victoria's Book of Spells, because it was just interesting seeing what could have happened, and I can actually see Queen Victoria sitting there hiding spells that she knows, so that the other people don't know, especially her mum. And of course, Smithfield was written by one of the grandfathers of steampunk.
Yes.
But also it has a photography. And I often do that sort of thing I've got a thing for photography, particularly 19th century photography. And I guessed who the person, I guessed it was Doyle right from the very beginning. So I said to my dear heart, I said, oh, this has got to be Conan Doyle. So they're probably my favorite too. And I haven't quite finished the Scrooge one. That's how far through I got. I actually read all of the stories.
That's excellent.
That's probably my favorites, I think.
Excellent. Oh, thank you, Karen. And you know what? I do love that opening story, the namesake of the collection. I think it's a fantastic story. For those of you who've read or watched Discovery of Witches, it sort of implies this. Oh, you teased on short stories.
When I first started into short stories for learning how to write, and it's really good to learn how to edit short stories are. And you have to get to the point, which I'm not getting to now. And so I actually did 23 short story competitions in the first year. Yeah.
23?
I didn't know that was a lot. I thought that wasn't many. because I didn't know. I just jump into things, get all enthusiastic, don't know these things. I got shortlisted for one, so that was pretty cool, and that actually ended up going into my Viola Stewart series, actually. So yes, and I've just put out what month is it now? I think it was August, I put out a collection of short stories called Cogs and Conspiracies, which are in my steampunk world. And I just put out Blood Ties, which is a novelette, so it's not really a short story, which follows on from Dr. Jack, which is about Jack the Ripper.
Oh, all right. Excellent. Plug. Karen, please post your links in the chat for everyone who's here today. All right. Thank you, Karen. Alan, hello, my friend. It's so lovely to see you. It's been a minute.
Thank you.
I know you were busy writing your own novel, and that's a whole production. So I understand why we haven't seen you for a minute, but welcome back.
Well, I've read many of the stories and I enjoyed them. So even though I haven't been here, so I always appreciate all the recommendations.
Thank you. So what did you think of this book today? Did you have a favorite short story from the collection?
I did. My three favorites were the Book of Spells. That was probably my favorite, but I like the one about the fairy factory. I'm not sure what the official title is. It was in the early part. And I especially like the one about the gray women.
Oh, yes. The Forgotten Women of Surrey.
Yes.
Ooh, so creepy.
It was. They became so psychopathic in the sort of middle of the story. And I especially like the way they tied into the waters with cholera.
Yes, the actual science, actual history. That one took such a turn, didn't it?
It did. It was just really a fun story about people that are invisible, and it's very, very interesting and fun. So those are my favorites.
Those are great choices. And Cindy Joy reminds us the Fairy Enterprise was the Fairy Factory story. Thank you, Cindy Joy. The Forgotten Women of Surrey, I really thought was going to have a turn where maybe they got vengeance on their husband or they freed themselves. No, that's not what happened. Shocking. But really well written because it is so impactful, right? It's really terrifying. And that one, I think, was by no, it's a different one I'm thinking of. We'll get to it. I have never read anything else by this author, Karen Warren, and now I want to see what else they've written. It's intriguing. Anyway, thank you, Alan. And also, Alan, please be sure, I'm going to tell all of our authors this today, so Bill, get prepared. But Alan, please be sure to share your links in the chat.
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right. Everyone's going to get a chance to speak more than once today, by the way, so don't think you're free and clear if I've called on you already. So, Lady June Squill, looking very fine in your chapeau. How are you? Yes, little Holly.
Okay, well, I would say, first of all, my favorite was the vital importance of the superficial, vital importance of the superficial, because it's epistolary, and I like epistolaries. I like books, stories that are letters going back and forth. So that was my favorite. And I also like Estella Saves the Village, because we have read other books and things by some of these authors that have been written since this compilation came out. And that was like The Alchemist's Daughter, that whole series that we read. And so I could see where her inspiration of using monsters and villains and things came from, so
my goodness,
I really liked that one. And
so,
you'll get to what people didn't like, right?
Oh, yes, I will also get to what people didn't like. All's fair today. We'll do a little, what the Grand Arbiter and I call a compliment sandwich. So we'll start out with good things. We'll do a little bit of bad things, and then we'll come back to good things. So we leave in good cheer. But I just wanted to say, You picked out a couple of my favorites as well. I love an epistolary novel or story. And I also am very keen. We haven't read this for book club, although I've considered reading them. But Carolyn Stevermeyer wrote a series with another author that is more Regency than Victorian, but sort of Gaslamp as well.
Yeah.
And they're fantastic. If you like Gail Carriger's finishing school books, you will like those very much. They're wonderful.
Isn't there a chocolate pot in one of those books?
Yes. I think it's Cecilia and the Chocolate Pot is the title, I think, roughly. That's why I'm like, oh, the author, but I don't remember the title quite. And I also love Ellen Kushner. She's one of my favorite authors. So the two of them together, I was like, oh, we've got to talk about that one. Such a good story. And also, yes, we read Theodora Ghosts, and if you have not read her books, I absolutely highly recommend them to you. They're wonderful. The Enchanted Chocolate Pot. Thank you, Captain Cynthia. And thank you, Alan, and everyone sharing your links. So good. All right. So, speaking of Captain Cynthia, hello. How good to see you. Are you staying warm?
Actually, it's been in the, I guess, 20s, so room temperature. So we're having a lovely, lovely fall.
Oh my gosh, I'm so pleased.
We had one hard frost, but the bad weather is staying away for now.
Fingers crossed. Excellent. You had a rough summer, so I'm glad you're having a lovely fall, lovely autumn season. So beautiful. So Captain Cynthia, what was one of your favorite stories in the
Book of Spells and A Cell Save the Village, sort of the bookends. I love like those. Not a big fan of the real darker stuff, but I did like A Jewel in the Toad Queen's Crown with Disraeli in it. It was such a different story. And I kind of liked the fact that each can turn into a toad, and didn't want to do it 3 times because it might stick.
Right. Well, and I like it when people touch on Disraeli in their steampunk fiction, because he was such an important figure in 19th century history, and he really impacted so much. And sometimes he gets lost in the shuffle of famous figures, and he probably could be argued to have a lot of blood on his hands, but he's a really fascinating individual. And so getting to read about him in something a little bit fanciful is really fun. So yeah, those are great choices. And I do think it's that they start out on a really strong note with this anthology, and they end on a really strong note. Right? All right. Cindy Joy, my friend, how are you doing? Did you have a favorite story?
So the last, Queen Victoria's Book of Spells and Estella Saves the Village, is I like it when, things come out okay in the end for the main characters, or, that it ends on a high note. So I also liked The Jewel in the Toad Queen's Crown. I thought that was a really strong story. And The Memory Book, which no one's mentioned yet, I kind of like it because she's using the memory book to manipulate her life, but she's not making her life better. It's kind of like, you don't get what you ask. You just because you think you know what path you should be on doesn't mean you're right.
That's not.
Yeah.
Sometimes the path untraveled is not a better option.
And destroying other people's lives to make your own better is not the way to do it.
It is not.
So
that's generally a bad idea. Yes, there are a number in these a number of these stories are supremely creepy. I found, as Alan said, The Memory Book was so creepy.
And it was Well, and I think maybe the first time she did something like that, she didn't know what she was doing,
Mhm.
but then she didn't change her ways. She just kept on.
She did not.
And yeah. So, and I did also like the the vital importance of the superficial. I liked the back and forth of the letters a lot.
I love that.
I think I commented on your, people are asking which ones to read, and I was like, well, that covers pretty much most of my favorites. So
Yeah.
but it was a really strong anthology. I liked it a lot.
And I'll be honest, everyone, I chose I recommended stories by authors I felt either that they were individual stories I'd really liked for certain, or authors I knew wrote good stories, and so I felt fairly confident we would talk about them. So it's not that I don't recommend other stories in here. That was just sort of my process of choosing. So, but thank you, Cindy Joy. Also, so lovely to see you today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Scone Mistress and your delightful chum. Hello. I love having two people in one conversational box. That's so delightful. All right, so you each get to answer the question of what was one of your favorite stories in the collection.
Well, I first want to give an honorable mention because like there were, historical figures and then other characters woven in through there.
Yes.
But at an absolute delight, because I didn't quite get all the way through, but the last one I started reading before book club was I got to the one that dealt with the Charles Dickens Christmas story follow-up. And I literally went, wait, hold on, we're at a table. Wait, is Tiny Tim here? Is Tiny Tim here? And then Tim Cratchit appeared, and I was like,
gotta have that Tiny Tim, right?
Yeah, that cameo got me. But my absolute favorite story was the Briar Rose story.
Oh, yes. Oh my gosh. Excellent choice.
Yeah, and then it was just like I identified a lot with the main character, just kind of like she's just surrounded by all of these, fantastical people, and she's very like solid and laid out, and then it's just like the people around her are absolutely barmy nuts.
Sort of turning things a bit on their head from the expectation, which I love, right? So yeah.
The main character going through motherhood, and then I'm literally like, girl, where are you going? Why are you going into the wood? Like a lot of, I'm like, it was 8 a.m. and I was having an existential crisis this morning. Like, maybe it's not a good idea to give birth in a possibly, possessed wood. Can we get you out of here? Can we get you out of here, please? And then she woke up, and I'm like, oh, thank God.
I have found that it's usually a bad idea to give birth in a possessed wood. I've heard that's not hygienic, actually. Yeah. So, and what about you? What did you like, madam?
I didn't finish it either, but I was surprisingly pleased with the namesake story from the book. It's something I haven't actually seen before, that they would go into that kind of depth about Queen Victoria, mostly when she's in anything. They really keep to what historically they say about her, and this made her a little more three-dimensional and human.
Yes. They did a good job of weaving in some of the actual historical sort of research styles, I thought, for trying to figure out the actuality of a historic figure. And then they did such a good job of bringing in combination of like real knowledge about real actual Victoria and shifting things on its head a bit, which I thought was delightfully done, right?
Yeah, it's definitely an Ultraverse.
Yeah.
Stuff. But yeah, it was it did feel very it was well done.
Yeah.
And cohesive.
Well, it's by an absolutely stunning author, which is always helpful. So if you have not read anything by Delia Sherman before, I absolutely recommend her work. And she's fantastic. She's, what we used to call a mid-tier author, and they produce a lot of books, but they're never necessarily New York Times bestsellers, but they're fantastic, and we just don't see them elevated as much anymore. But she wrote a lot of fantastic fantasy in the past. I don't know what she's written most recently, so I recommend her to you. And please go ahead.
I would not go by New York Times bestseller for good books, considering the Twilight novels ended up there. That's based on popularity, not actual quality.
It's true, but the challenge, right? I mean, and our authors can speak to this, is that these days, because of reasons having to do with economics, and I'm going to try and glide over some of that because we're here for book talk, but publishing houses are not going to make certain that you get to read the other authors as well. And so back in the previous century, it was, those sort of middle of the pack authors who were prolific and sold pretty well were actually the backbone of the industry, and they could make a living and you could really enjoy their books. And now it's harder to find, which is a little, I find it a little sad as a reader. So
it really is. I kind of moved away from real books because I just don't want to have so much clutter. But I mean, most of the authors you're talking about now, I think probably most of their sales is going to be in the ebook genre now.
Oh yeah, and Gail Carriger has mentioned this a number of times. It's just
it's
the
sad,
cost
though.
the cost of selling a book. There's less profit, and there's more profit in ebooks.
That's correct. Yeah. So, but not to get too far into the weeds here, but yes, and as Karen says, reading indie authors and self-published authors is the way to go, right? In many cases, and ebooks are fantastic for those who enjoy them. Thank you both. Wonderful comments. Excellent. All right, let's see here. Laura, hello, my friends. I haven't seen you in an age.
I know, almost 3 hours.
Yes. Laura's in my corsetry class in the morning, so we have just a tiny break to get ready to talk about books after sewing corsets. So welcome, Laura.
Thanks. I really liked the Queen Victoria's Book of Spells story, and I also really liked the Christmas Carol one that Robin mentioned before. And I also loved Vital Importance of the Superficial, the letter writing one. I really like the style on that one. And the Christmas Carol one is mostly because I've always been a huge fan of Dickens and of Christmas Carol. I was a little bit sad that they made Scrooge neglect his own family in order to help everyone else's. But I mean, sometimes people do that kind of thing, just go too far in one direction trying to make up for the other. So
yes. Oh, Scrooge, that poor complicated figure. But yeah, no, I personally like Charles Dickens, the philanthropist, I think, a bit more than I tend to be a fan of his writing, although respect to Mr. Dickens. He certainly doesn't need my accolades at this point. I think he's done all right in his career. But he's not to my taste all the time. And as Lady June Squirrel says, his poor wife, so many babbies. Yeah, no, he was prolific in so many ways, Mr. Dickens was. But clearly he's had such an impact on English literature and really has had a bit of an impact on steampunk. So it's wonderful to see a story sort of playing with some of that. And, Christmas Story, I always feel complicated about them, but one of the things I love about 19th century Yuletide and Christmas is that they were very keen on spookiness and ghost stories and the supernatural around Christmas. It was more like Halloween time for them, sans jack-o'-lanterns. I like a spooky Christmas. So thank you, Laura, for those wonderful comments. And also, Bill, I'm pretty sure we're going to have to read The Enchanted Chocolate Pot now because everyone's loving that story so much. So we have to put a pin in that. All right, Alicia, how are you doing?
I'm cold.
Oh, no.
No, it's not bad. It's only like 50, but
That sounds
okay.
cold to me where I'm sitting right now, Alicia.
I think our low tonight is 38. So, which I think is like 7 or 8 in Celsius, something like that. Anyway, yeah, we went from 2 weeks ago, it was summer, and now we're like, imminent winter. Yay.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, I probably shouldn't tell you about what our weather looks like here. So just assume.
I'll take it, man. I'll take it.
It's going to be about 100 degrees Fahrenheit on Monday here during the day. So
yeah, just inside.
But taking a left turn from weather talk,
yeah.
What was something one of your stories you really liked in the book?
I think I am not unusually. I'm the odd man out. I liked all those stories. They were okay. Yeah. The two that I liked, Charged was an interesting story.
Yes.
Like, you can't necessarily, you want to hate him. You really do. You really want to hate him. But it's just such a wonderful, he's clearly on his way to be a supervillain, but you can't totally feel bad. You can't totally hate him. And I really liked that aspect to it.
Makes him a better villain, honestly, to be someone who's not so cardboard cutout, right?
Yeah. And I really liked that aspect of the story. I also liked the phosphorus one just because I know a lot about that, and it was really awful and it was horrible.
So
and
phosphorus is my favorite story in the collection. I'm so delighted someone else likes it.
Yeah, because she didn't sugarcoat anything.
No.
And plus you have that wonderful Irish voodoo magic. I was like, where are we going? Oh, I see where we're going with this.
Yeah.
It's
so good.
Hey, this is going to end badly.
Right. No, the phosphorus, I think, is so poignant and so interesting and so also creepy and well written and hard and kind of heavy.
Yeah.
The first time I read it, I had no idea. I was like, oh, where did they come up with this idea for a story? And so I went a little bit digging, and the things I expected to be fanciful were all true.
Yeah.
And this was 2013 when the book came out, so I've learned a great deal since then about the 19th century experience. I've time traveled there quite a bit. Some things are really overrated, water quality very poor, but this was not something I was expecting, and it's so grim, but also such important history, actually. They really changed working conditions for many people with their efforts, and so that's fantastic bit, but also it's a story for me that stuck its claws in, right?
Yeah, and I think it would read wonderfully as an audiobook.
Oh, yes.
You could do just the way it's written. There's so much you can do with your voice.
Yes.
To create, because I'm reading that going, oh, I can have so much fun with this.
A great story. So you're not totally the odd man out, Alicia, because I also loved that book, that story, and I liked Charged as well. So to be fair, I'm clearly biased. I recommended the book. I liked the whole anthology, but those are some of my favorites as well.
Yeah.
So.
Definitely.
So thank you, Alicia. All right, Terri, so patient. Hello, my friend. It's so good to see you.
Thank you. I'm in the same cold boat.
Oh.
We could split the difference in the temperatures.
Yes,
That'd be
sounds
good.
nice. That sounds
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, you wouldn't have 100, we wouldn't have 50.
No, it'd be perfect.
But when it's 50, it's a good night to stay in and read.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
lovely. That part's
Yeah.
the silver lining.
That's right. My most favorite is, along with many other people's, The Vital Importance of the Superficial.
Yes.
And yes, we do need to read The Magic Chocolate Pot. It's just as delightful as the
Yes.
short story.
Yes.
I also liked Queen Victoria, her story,
Mm-hmm.
and I appreciated Phosphorus.
Mm. That's fair.
But I
That's a
don't
fair.
like it.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, because you
Very
can't
fair.
like the horror
No.
of the truth.
Yes.
So, yeah.
That's a good way to put it, Terry, because I don't love what's going on, but it's so well done, right?
Yes.
An admirable story, not
Yes.
one I'm like, oh, I'm going to read it again next week,
Sorry about the y'all mispronunciation, but I am Michigan, so.
No, you're doing fine. Y'all, all y'all, you all.
You all.
You got us there. It's fine.
Yes.
It's good. Yeah. We're not sticklers here. We're just delighted. So,
Good.
and I'm so happy you could be with us today, Terry. It's good to see you.
It's a good group. I love it.
Well, and we love having you. So
Thank you.
you're welcome. All right, Chris, how good to have you back as well.
Hi.
Hello. How are you doing?
Good.
Excellent. Good. So, obviously we're all starting off with like how our weather is, which is the most Victorian thing ever. So we're going to talk about literature and the weather.
Well, it's different every day here in northern Colorado.
Oh my goodness.
So it's today I think it got into the 50s. A couple days ago it was in the 80s. It's all over the place.
Wow, but beautiful country.
Oh yeah.
Beautiful country. Yeah. So Chris, what did you think of the collection? What was one of your favorites?
I haven't read very many yet. I've been kind of skipping through on the list. My favorite so far is Queen Victoria's Book of Spells. It's alternate history, as somebody pointed out, but it's also secret history, and those are two of my favorite things.
So good.
And
so good.
And I loved the intricacy, the increasing intricacy of the spells. I love that. I also actually really liked the Governess. And I don't think you mentioned that one yet.
They have not. That one's by Elizabeth Bear, fantastic author. She wrote Care in Memory, which I cannot recommend highly enough. It's one of my favorite steampunk novels. It's so stunning. I love it for many things, but especially for the sewing machine. And if you've read it, you know what I mean. But she's a fantastic writer. So please share a bit what you liked about The Governess, because it's also a creepy, hard story.
Like Cindy Joy said, the Selkie aspect. And I saw that coming pretty quickly, and I was like, ooh, yeah, and just following along all the foreshadowing and all. And then but the ending, the very ending, it's like, if I just let go, it would solve so many problems.
What an ending. I mean, we're just left to wonder how that will work out, and if he is a salvageable human, if she's going to do that work, what's going to be, what will be. But it's a bit of a harrowing tale in such a short space of pages, right?
Yeah.
Really potent. I loved it though. It was a really good story. That's about the level of creepiness and horror I can do, and it was terrifying. So you're not alone. I also enjoyed that one, Chris. Excellent. All right, Erin, welcome to book club.
Hello everyone. Well, I'm afraid I'm a bit of an interloper here. I only just remembered tonight that I had signed up for this months ago, so it grieves me to confess that I have not read the book, so I'm a bit of an interloper.
That's all right. No, Erin, I must tell you something. You're not an interloper. You're just a new friend, and we're very excited to have you. We never require that anyone finishes the book or even reads the book, as long as you don't mind some potential spoilers. We don't necessarily give everything away, but we don't have a spoiler-free zone either. That said, how did you learn about us?
I think I would. To be honest, I've completely forgotten. I think I might have been searching across social media for a couple of steampunk groups to join up, because it's one of my favorite genres of, subgenres of sci-fi and fantasy.
Oh, Erin.
And I guess I stumbled across this group by chance.
Well, first of all, please allow me to welcome you to our community. We are the Temporal Entourage. I'm Madame Askew, and our book club is the Temporal Textual Talks, because I have a problem and I like to name things in a ridiculous fashion. But we are a very lively community, and we are super into steampunk and other things like tea and hats and reading. And so welcome to the group. I hope you will engage with us in some other ways. If you like Discord, I'm happy to share the Discord link with you in the chat. We also have just a sort of regular social group on the Book of Faces, the Temporal Entourage, and some other spaces. You're welcome in literally every one of those spaces if you'd like to join us there. And
thank you.
Please feel free to get to know us and ask any questions and find out more. So I'm just going to drop that Discord link in the comments. But let me say, I'm very delighted that you found us. And
thank you.
Welcome to Book Club. So next month, oh, please go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, I've read a lot of steampunk short story anthologies, just not this particular one.
That's all right. That's all right. This one is actually kind of particular, actually, because it's more of the fantastical than the science driven. And there was a lot of debate in the earlier days of steampunk about Gaslamp versus steampunk and where they fell. And at this point, I think we sort of wrap it all together in steampunk, because solidarity. So, but it is more fantastical, less science. So there are no airship centric stories, for instance. But yeah, I still think it's really wonderful. Lots of Victoriana and 19th century nonsense and altered history and that sort of thing. So thank you, Erin. I hope you will keep reading with us. Next month, we're reading Copper Cove by our dear friend Robert Darlane. And that's a very charming, cozy read. So yeah, excellent.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Tamia. Hello, my friend.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm cooking. So
cut away. May I ask, before we get too far, am I pronouncing your name correctly?
It's Tamia.
Tamia, thank you very much. So Tamia, welcome to Book Club.
This is actually my second time, but the first time was probably like a couple years ago or something.
Oh, well, welcome back to Book Club.
You at the Gaslamp convention. I guess that would have been last year.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm not entirely new.
Well, I'm so happy you're here again, and I'm delighted to see you. Did you enjoy the anthology?
Yeah, actually, I was surprised just the variety of the different story. I mean, there was so. I mean, they all seem. There was nothing I was like, oh, this is just this more of the same kind of. It was like each one was really different. I guess like everyone else, I like the Queen Victoria's Book of Spells, but I also liked Phosphorus because I didn't know anything about those historic events behind it, and even though it's horrible, horrible situation. I also like finding out about people in history that you maybe don't really hear much about. And so even though it's you know, has the magic mixed in and all that, it's still, you know, it's like I learned something from it. and it's something that I was like, also that I didn't know that these women were so, like the whole thing, like they were trying to unionize and all that before even some of these other union activities happened. So I just thought it was really fascinating. And then I also liked the Fairy Enterprise one, and the Women of the Forgotten Women. What is it?
Oh, the Forgotten Women of Surrey.
Yeah, because, and I don't know, because those are they're both pretty dark, and I don't know, I must have been in a kind of a mood for, I guess it's October, so I'm in the mood for dark.
Yes, a little spookiness, a little darkness. Absolutely.
Well, you're saying like you're talking to someone.
Yes, I'm in the book club. Okay. So yeah, I'm in the kitchen, so my husband's wandering around too.
I thought you were on the phone.
It's a very charming kitchen, though. Beautiful.
Good.
Absolutely. It's the last century. That makes it pretty old. So yeah, no, I'm being terrible. But no, I'm so delighted the anthology. Those are excellent stories. And yeah, a little bit creepy, a little bit charming, a little bit fun, right? So
yeah, but I really enjoyed reading the book, and I'm generally not really a short story person. I like to get really into something, so it was nice that you know, that I wasn't like, oh god, I have to, like, you know, another short story kind of thing. You know, it's like,
nice. Oh, good. Well, I will say as a plug that Ellen Datlow and Terri Windling are two of my favorite editors of short story collections. I've generally found that they do an exceptional job at putting together a collection that feels like it's sort of pulling you through the whole collection. And Parlor. Ooh.
I think my favorite way of sort of illustrating that, you know, dramatically changed the world with bringing electricity in. And also you have this guy who is a budding supervillain. I thought, you know, this is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And Phosphorus really is really haunting because of the implications and the history behind it, and how similar it resonates to the Radium Girls of the 40s.
Yes.
And how they were afflicted with something similar and
yes,
equally horrible.
Yes.
So very, very compelling, but also really gut-wrenching.
Yes. Hard, awful.
This was a dark, I mean, I'm kind of slacking. I didn't finish it. I had COVID a week ago, and so I'm recovering from that. Luckily, I had Paxlovid, so the recovery was pretty quick. But I fell behind because I was sleeping an awful lot, and so I didn't finish it. But this is really an amazingly dark collection of stories. I have to sort of name drop a little bit and brag here because
oh good, I love it.
At WisCon, which is my local science fiction convention, a number of years ago, I got to listen to Ellen Kushner and Carolyn Stevermer read The Vital Importance of the Superficial live at a big reading event, and that was very cool. And that got us to go out and buy a copy of the book, and then it sat, and I didn't read it until just now because reasons.
Well,
anyway.
Because we read a lot all the time, and the TBR is very long. And yes, Karen, it was I recommended this in part because it is spooky, and because I love the story Phosphorus, and I wanted to talk about it with everyone. So It is more of a Bill style story, so I think it's unusual for me to be the one recommending, oh yes, let's do something spooky and traumatizing, Bill. That sounds fun. Normally I'm the one who's like, oh, let's do something cute and charming with a happy ending. So, but Bill, you are an author, an editor, and you edited a short story collection not too long ago yourself, and you've been in some short story collections. You write short stories. So I have an additional question for you, and I get to because you're my pal and you help organize the group. And as I did not get to interview any authors, now I get to interview all of you and torment you instead. So that's what happens. Yeah. So as an editor, how did you feel about the way in which they arranged the stories in this collection? Did you like the pacing? Is there anything you would have done differently?
I can't say there's anything I would have done differently. No, I mean, like I said, I thought the lead-in story, the Queen Victoria's Book of Spells, really set the tone beautifully. And because of the darkness of some of these, I wish they had been able to alternate a bit more with a lighter story and then a darker story. But I also understand that, you know, this is a time period in particular that lends itself to darkness because it was so very dark and grim for so many people. So yeah, I don't think I would have done anything significantly different.
Excellent. Thank you, Bill. Wonderful. You're released for the moment, but I'll be back to torment you some more. Would you do me a kindness, my friend, and share your social media link should someone wish to buy some of your books or your short story anthology? You know, it's a good idea. And I did mention that you're an author, so you should share. Or So it's time for me to go back round. Everybody's going to get a chance again. And I was asked if I would also talk about, you know, if I'd ask you a little bit about something you didn't like. And so this is sort of an easy question in that it's obvious. But my question for you is, I'm going to back up a little bit, actually. Rather than asking you for what story you didn't like, because that's sort of the obvious and, you know, follow up to a story you did like, what was a character in any of the characters in any of the stories that you were like, I would like something terrible to happen to this character. They are awful and I cannot stand them. I want them to suffer. It's spooky season. We can be a little bit spiteful today. So, Cindy, Joy, you had such a look on your face. I'm going to start with you.
So that question came out of your mouth, and the first thing that came to my mind was the husband in The Governess. And of course, something terrible happened to him outside of our line of sight, but you're raping every female in the house and you're keeping your wife hostage by having her skin. You deserve to be shoved off a cliff and land on some jagged rocks. Or anyway, that was the first thing that came to my mind, was that guy.
You know, the only disappointment I have is that we didn't get to see his demise. I sort of wanted the catharsis.
The ambiguity of it was really.
Yes. But yeah, no, he's truly vile, absolutely a monster, terrible, monstrous character. And for me, Cindy, I found that he was so unfortunately realistic also.
Yes.
Which made it more chilling.
True to what happened in many households through many centuries.
Yes. Awful. I hope that he was dashed to the rocks and suffered immeasurably.
Yes, just like laid there dripping with his spine broken and couldn't even help himself.
Yeah. And that
I sound very spiteful, but I have got a thing about men that rape women that are under their
mean, you could have really just stopped with men who rape women. That's
men who rape women.
terrible.
You
Terrible.
Yeah.
You don't need to apologize. He's a good one to wish something evil to happen to. Thank you, Cindy. What a good choice. I say with a smile. So obviously he's on our list of suffering. And I'm not going to ever tell you all that you can't choose the same person, but I do hope you all have somebody different, because we can all agree that he's terrible. So let's see, who else? Oh, Alan, you chuckled when I asked the question, so I'm going to come round to you. Who's someone you wish, one of the characters you wish something terrible would happen?
I was thinking about the scrapbooking girl that made terrible things happen. She
the
ended
memory
up
book.
unpunished, but I think her punishment is on the way with the child. So she's going to find herself in sort of regretting her actions with children, as they often do. So it's just a matter of time till she feels the pain.
Until she suffers. Sometimes terrible people create their own suffering, and that's also very satisfying to see unfold in a book or a story. We don't always get to have the vengeance or the catharsis in reality, so it's nice to have it happen in a story. Yeah, let us hope that that all comes to fruition for that terrible, terrible character. Thank you, Alan. All right, Lady June Squirrel, upon whom would you like to see vengeance?
Okay, first, what story was it that Alan was alluding to? Because it isn't one that I read. I only read the ones that you listed. So
fair. The memory book on page 78.
Okay. I will read that. I want to read some more of the stories. I've had this book since 2014, when I got it at Bookman's or something like that. Okay, I hesitate to mention the husband who the raping husband, but I just wanted to say that one of my favorite series of books that are not at all steampunk are by K.F. Breen, which are the demigods of San Francisco. Where the head is Valens, is this horrible man who has taken his wife's skin, his Selkie wife's skin, to hidden it, and it's a series of books of the son trying to find the skin so that his mother can be released, her spirit can be released. So that I just wanted to say that because I'm rereading those books because I like them so much, because they're set in San Francisco, even though it's a magical San Francisco. And let's see, another person I didn't like. We haven't mentioned the catalog of the Pavilion of the Uncanny and the Marvelous. The fact that, oh my God, I'm so glad that place burned down, and I hope all of the people in there who were being exposed and whatever escaped.
Yes.
So whoever it was that wanted to have an exhibition of freaks, as they called them, that is an evil person. How about that?
Yes. Well, I think that is York. Her employer is the one, and he is, venile bureaucrat, just doing his job. But yet, sometimes people who just do their job are really capable of a lot of evil. So I hope that he moulders in a cold, drafty office where his tea is forever cold and bitter, and that he never knows joy again.
And has mildew on the top of the tea.
Yes, and his bickies are always stale.
Yes. Can I say one more thing?
Yes, you may.
About the Victoria's Book of Spells. I really liked that up until she mind-effed Albert. And then really got upset that she did that to him. He would have loved her anyway.
He would have.
And so that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, this Queen Victoria's Book of Spells, one hopes that there was a point that she was able to undo what she'd done, but of course we never know that because of the nature of the short story and the loss of her journals and private correspondence. But we can hope that Albert was released. However, for me, not only did I find that deeply distressing what happened to him, as you say, he was going to love her anyway deeply, infatuatedly. They had an awful lot of children. They clearly had a passionate marriage. But, you know, it sort of alters my feelings about his death and what that must have, the cost came due, as it were, because he died rather young and she was forever heartbroken. So, yeah, that's a hard part of that story, isn't it? Thank you, June. All right, Karen, you're an author. Sometimes you have to make terrible things happen to terrible people on the page. So what character did you dislike so much in this collection that you'd like to see suffer?
Other than the husband in the governess.
Right.
I don't like people that try to control others against their will. So actually, I really didn't like Mosley in Charged, because right from the beginning, he was all about him. It was even like, I must go find Edison because I'm so brilliant type thing. And he took that right through to the end with all the power, and he's just going to control everyone and make them pay if he doesn't like it. And I really, 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 really don't like it when people do that.
Yeah, it's terrible. He's clearly going to be a villain. Terrible.
Oh, he is a villain already.
Terrible person. He's going to be more of a villain. He's just going to commit to villainy in a big way. If you were going to find a comeuppance with him,
I just hope that Tesla's DC goes and gets him and screws him up.
Oh, all right, good. Let Tesla take care of him. That's an excellent suggestion. Thank you, Karen. All right. Robin, Scone Mistress, our little Scone Mistress contingent. Yes.
So one person I put on there is Wolfstein, if I'm remembering his name correctly. Because we've got we have a kidnapping there.
Yes.
We have kidnapping and ill treatment of women, single women, I might add, in a time when, you know, walking out with someone, it's like, she was supposed to be going, like, what, up to the family home because she had a really, really bad cold, and you kidnap a sick woman and then hold her hostage so you can get, you know, something from her brother. I'm sorry, what? No. Heck, no. He got off so easy. It was like we made him cry and appeal to his soft and sad side. He's just a wounded little teddy bear who's a widow. No. Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not.
He also should never enjoy another decent cup of tea, at the very least. Suffering for 1,000 years.
Yeah, and one of the things they put on him was as long as he, you know, is free carrying around and has this case, he'll never be able to find his way back to the one girl's house, where it's just like, yeah, okay, that's great, but can we just like get him to walk off a cliff? Because
sometimes that's what we need, is some cliff walking and a sudden fall.
Yes, into in fact, I believe John, it would be very nice if you walked all the way to the top of Scotland and then jumped off the ledge at John O'Groats into the very northern sea, where it's extremely cold.
It's very cold and pretty choppy up there. It's not nice waters. Yeah. All right, Robin, that's a fitting end. And yes, my friend popping in. Who was a character that you wished to see suffer because they're so terrible?
Well, people have already brought up Bennett in, let's see, so I pulled it up to the Ferry Enterprise. But you know what who I want to see punished outside of him is, I think the kid's name was Jennings, his father.
Yes.
What the bloody hell? Why would your kid ever know what a head sounds like popping when it's being burned?
No.
He had to make worst father of the year, because that's
absolutely.
That's just, I mean, it's not exactly a major point in there, but that kid knew what all that stuff. So it's just like, and what was he, like 10?
Little. He was little. Children run together for me, but yes, he was little. So
yeah, he felt to me like maybe a tween, like maybe like 12-ish.
I kind of thought he was a little younger,
Maybe.
but who knows? But anyway, it's definitely not something a kid should know about
of any
or be
age.
so numb to.
Yeah, that kid was dangerously blasé.
Not good. You should be distressed by the sound of popping heads, is my personally very strongly held view on that matter.
I'm very much in the same boat as wanting Bennett to suffer heinously. I mean, the whole story starts off with him killing his coachman because he forced him to drive around in freezing weather.
Yeah.
And then it's just like he kicks the body.
Terrible.
Oh, what, 3 farthings to his family? Wow.
3 farthings is nothing.
No.
Not even then. It was real pittance.
To starvation.
Yeah. Well, I think they all need to suffer as well. There are some truly vile, bad characters, villains in this collection. So it's kind of fun to think of who should suffer. So thank you both. Excellent suffering. All right. Captain Cynthia, our kind friends from a kind land. Always kind, my friend. Is there anyone we haven't
No one
mentioned?
that hasn't already been mentioned. All the ones I hated were there. Number 1, of course, is the husband.
Right. Terrible.
But, yes. And yeah, I think we've hit all the horrible people that you wish there was a twist, just a little twist in the end, so you knew. Right. But then again, you can invent what happens to them. So
yes, that's sort of the beauty of short stories, and also sometimes the frustration, right, is that they can end before you get everything, but that does allow you to invent a real spiteful and fitting, poetic even, comeuppance for any villains in the stories.
I guess one thing that I disliked was that I walked away disliking Scrooge, whereas in the original Christmas Carol there was the redemption, and this was sort of the other side, and it's like, how could you do that to your children? Like, why? I guess that's what disturbed me about that story the most. Yeah. That's probably the story that disturbed me the most, because I just didn't like what they did to Scrooge.
Sometimes it's hard when they take something that's usually like an uplifting story that gives us a lot of optimism or hope or joy. Especially at the holidays, and then it gets turned on the ear and it's no longer a sort of source of hope. The good news is this is clearly not canon. And so we don't have to embrace it. It's kind of like you don't have to embrace all of the Star Wars apocrypha. Not canon. Do not accept. Scrooge is redeemed.
Bill asked which stories. It's got twigs in the title. Twigs. Something.
Oh, the twigs.
Twigs he left behind. Yes.
Yes. A few twigs left behind. Gregory Maguire. So if you like Gregory Maguire's, that's sort of his flavor, is to take other people's characters and to do fascinating things with them. So he wrote the book about the Wicked Witch of the West in Glinda. Wicked, that's the one. Right. So thank you, Captain Cynthia. I appreciated your insights, and we're just going to continue to hope that Scrooge had real redemption and that he's now a delightful cinnamon roll, delivering turkeys everywhere. Dear Laura, is there anyone we haven't mentioned that you would like to see suffer, who's a bad character in this collection?
Okay, well, it's already been mentioned, but the main character in the memory book, because how dare she walk around being so evil and have my name? I'm very upset.
Oh, very fair. Very fair. The audacity, the gall. Fie on her. No.
And I think a fitting end for her would either be to meet someone who has like the same sort of powers that she did, but also has a memory book, or to have something happen to her book and have it affect her, like have fire or flood or something and have it wash away her memories or name her in some way. So
that's an excellent a little bit of comeuppance for her. I love that, Laura. And clearly she's not part of the League of Lauras. She has been cut from the league. She is not worthy. She's absolutely a black sheep, Laura. We do not see her. She is not invited to tea. Probably a good idea, right? We don't really want her to come to tea. All right, Alicia, I know you like horror. I know you enjoy some creepy stories. So the cackling is also excellent. So who is a bad character in the story that you wish had suffered more, or would you like to see suffer?
All of them.
All suffer.
All of them. But now but also thinking about it, I think I understand why it's written the way it is. These are meant to be Gaslamp. They're meant to be steampunk stories.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go that extra bit and show that level of comeuppance that they deserve, then you're clearly dancing in horror.
Yeah.
And so all of the stories are this super fine line between those. And I think the point and the tone of the book was to keep it to the steampunk Gaslamp versus, cavorting off into the joys of horror.
Is this side of staying on this side of horror usually?
Yeah, and I think every single one of those stories could clearly just get lost in that. They could clearly become truly horror and truly terrifying.
Yeah,
and I
some
think
of
they
them,
were
especially,
yeah. So I think they all deserve it, but I also understand why they don't.
Yes,
like I get where they're trying to keep the stories, but so all of them.
Excellent observation, though. That it's trying to sort of have the vengeance off the page to preserve the tone of the stories. Yeah, I think that's great.
I do think, and I'm sure other people here will agree with me, that there is I don't know what this word is. There's a relationship between Gothic horror and steampunk.
Oh, yes.
And Gothic horror and 19th century science, and how they sort of inform each other and sort of work against and for each other.
Yes.
I don't know this word.
Symbiotic,
that's that word.
Symbiotic, that sounds good. I've been having so many troubles with words. Do not ask me tonight. Yes, I know what you mean by that hand gesture. Absolutely.
No, this is how I talk. There is, in the optical world, there is an Alicia to everyone else dictionary that one of the frame reps put together, because we would be, picking stuff and going through trays, and I would just make these faces and these hand motions, and she's like, "Are we buying this?" I'm like, yes, yeah. So there's a dictionary somewhere. I would love to get my hands on it, but yeah, it exists.
That's delightful that there's a dictionary for Alicia gestures. I love that.
Yeah, and I'm bad at panels too.
You're a delight. I refuse to hear anything else. You're perfect and you've never done anything wrong. So there, that's just the way it is. But thank you. I love that. And as Karen says, the line between the new science and older beliefs. Yes. Excellent. All right, Terri, my friend.
I think the husbands of the unwanted women all be put in solitary confinement. Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible. Now, in some cases, like Annie, I'm just like, well, you seem like you might be a truly terrible person, Annie. But the other women seem like they just are a little lost, unwanted.
Yeah, which will drive you a little lost.
Yeah.
And that's probably what happened to Annie.
Yes.
She was driven there.
She decided to keep driving herself at a certain point, though. And
yes, she did. She took over the wheel.
She's like, you know what? Not only am I going to drive myself, but I've got an entire passenger van.
People.
Let's go.
Yeah.
And Annie is also a bit of a distressing character, honestly. But those husbands and the way they are at that dinner when we first meet them, they're so dreadful. Oh, really? Yeah, no, I love this. The conversation in the comments. So good. But Terri, thank you.
Passenger van.
Yeah, a very fast passenger van. Terrible. The terrible husbands, though. All right, Chris. Who was a character so awful you wish they could suffer more?
I'm running out of villains.
Amazing.
But Reggie, I guess. We're down to Reggie.
Also,
he seemed kind of sus. We never actually got to meet him on the page, but
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he absolutely is sus. Also, whilst I enjoy Reginald, anytime someone's named Reggie, I'm just like, oh, Reggie, is it? I don't know what it is about the Reggies in the world, but they're always sus. They're always a little bit dodgy. They're always up to something, and it's often not good, those Reggies. So, yeah. Excellent choice, Chris. Thank you. Also, it gave me a chance to wax on about the evils of the Reggie.
Which story is that? There. Obviously, I should have read the book from start to finish.
Actually, that was Queen Victoria's Book of Spells.
Yes.
Yes. Reggie, the modern day asshole.
Yes. Yeah. What is it? He is the jolly. Gosh, there's a funny term.
Jolly Roger, they call him.
Yes, yes, the Jolly Roger at the end. Yeah, that Reggie. No, he's terrible, right? And so realistically terrible, like something many people have possibly had a run-in with in some shape. So yeah, you know what I hope for Reggie is that he never publishes again, or that he publishes and he's torn apart when they find out that it was all plagiarism and his career is destroyed forever. Yes, and they take away his tenure and he goes off in ignominy and he has to go live in the Russian steppes researching fiber arts. That's what I want for Reggie. And he's a bad weaver, so he does really poorly. So thank you. Now we know that I would like Reggie to suffer also. Thank you, Chris. Hello, Christina. Hello, my friend. You made it. We're still here. We are talking about all sorts of things. And Bill should be grateful because he's going to get a reprieve whilst I harangue you a little bit. Welcome to book club. So I'm going to ask you if you are ready. What was one of your favorite stories from the collection?
There were a few that stood out, but one that really hit me deep and hard was phosphorus.
Oh,
I work in health and safety and chemical exposures, and it was just a really fascinating and heartfelt look into the experience of those women and how hard they fought for rights and improvements in their working conditions. And it was it was wonderful. I really enjoyed it. It may have brought some tears.
So you've missed this, but as I'm going to share, that was my favorite story in the collection. So I'm delighted that you also enjoyed it. Although it's a harrowing story, I liked it because it's such a well-written story. It's very poignant and heavy. But yeah, the history and everything it touches on, so well done. It's both edifying and poignant and so many things. Beautifully written. Yeah. Well, all right. So now I'm going to cue you up to what we're discussing right now, because it's a bit of a change of pace from our normal discussions at book club. But I asked everyone, who was the villain, the evil character, somebody bad or wicked or awful or whatever in the collection, any story you choose, who you wish had suffered some terrible fate or vengeance or really bad tea, you know, just they needed to suffer. And
so, yeah, for me, he did suffer. He got his just desserts. It was Thurston, the creator of Primus. As a scientist, he was not an okay scientist. He was doing bad things, and his ethics and morals were not there.
What ethics and morals? He had none. Yeah, he had.
He was a white man in England, yes, of the gentry family. Yeah, we know this.
A little bit of a problem. Yeah, yeah, suffering, Thurston.
He got his just desserts.
Yeah, which is
totally
good.
Okay with that.
But sometimes we want more just desserts. But yes, good. One who suffered. Good. Yes. Thank you, Christina.
You're
All
welcome.
right. And I'm so happy you could be here for a bit of book club.
Yeah, sorry I was late. It's been a busy day.
It's all right.
I made it to Tucson. I'm in the casino.
You made it. And also, you know what? We're very relaxed here. You're never late. You're always right on time. And so, Erin, the only reason I'm not calling on you for this question is I know you haven't had a chance to read the book yet. But if there is an evil character in a steampunk book outside of the anthology that you could wish some greater suffering on for their wrongful behavior, who might it be, and what is the book?
Oh, decisions. Well, let me think of one off the top of my head. Well, in the Airborne trilogy by Kenneth Oppel, that one's definitely a steampunk of the airship variety.
It is.
I remember the bad guy, an air pirate named Vic from Spearglass. He kills several innocent passengers aboard a trans-Pacific passenger airship. And then he kills one of the secondary characters later on, a teenage boy. So, but he gets his just desserts and then some at the very end. He's killed rather gruesomely.
Oh, good. Excellent. I'm glad that he dies gruesomely. I'm sounding very bloodthirsty this book club. I'm not usually this bloodthirsty. Everyone's getting a new experience with me. But we have only read the first book in that series as a book club, so I've never gotten around to finishing the series. Clearly, I need
the Airborne series?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The first book is wonderful, though. Mm-hmm. We read it years ago. It's really delightful. So if you have not read Kenneth Oppel, I recommend his books to you. And Erin, thank you for bringing him up, and also bringing up the justified end, that villain. We love that. All right, thank you. Bill, I saved you for last. Buttery goodness, my friend.
There are so many choices, and many people have extolled the lack of virtues of those who deserve their just punishment. I would like to remind everyone of Sir John Conroy.
Yes!
Who was the manager of Queen Victoria and kept trying to get her to sign over her rights and privileges as sovereign to him. I think he deserves a little extra something in his stocking.
I do too.
Spring-loaded and sharp.
Yes. Right to the foot or elsewhere. No,
Like a Christmas stocking, you open it up and
right, boom, in the face. No,
never mind.
he's historically terrible. He's
Yes.
truly terrible, and really put the young Victoria through a lot of torment. That's all accurate. Yeah. Oh, so Alan, thank you. Alan shares that Conroy retired to his estate near Reading in 1842 and died heavily in debt 12 years later. I hope that every meal for him was burnt, slightly cold, under-seasoned, and that he never had a good cup of tea ever again. And also, what a manager! He died in debt. Excellent. Good for him.
Well,
Thank you, Alan.
I point out that it's British cuisine, so under-seasoned is kind of understood to be the norm.
All right, that's fair. No salt for him. He never got another flake of salt. And also all of the bottoms of his baked goods were soggy and claggy forever. Never another good scone in his life. Stale biscuits forever for him. Yeah, this is the worst vengeance I can clearly come up with for such a vile fiend. Alan, thank you for sharing those details. It's so good. So, death by soggy bottom. Absolutely, Chris. That's what needs to happen to John Conroy. Terrible. So my darlings, we have a bit of time left, and so of course I'm going to torment you some more with a final round of questions, but we're going to try and lighten the mood a bit, because as has been said, we need a bit of unicorns, we need some after dinner mints after all of these just desserts. Whoever said that in the comments, it scrolled past and I can't get there. That was so funny. I really appreciated that. So please identify yourself, because it's excellent. Very witty quip.
The line about the after dinner mints, you mean?
Yes. Yes.
That was me.
Erin, very funny. Thank you for that. It was so perfect. So this is our after dinner mint, which is a story that you read that you hope there's a novel or something more by that author that you're really eager to read because you fell so in love with it, or you liked the writing so much. And Karen, I'm going to call on you first.
I'm quickly going through. Off the top of my head, Queen Victoria's Book of Spells.
Oh, more Delian Sherman.
It's because you've got the alternate history and you've got modern, and you can do some time slippy stuff, which I always find really fun. And I think there's a lot more story, and I really would like to see him have his papers debunked.
Yeah, I want him to suffer. Also, it ends with a really, like, a little bit of a happy note with this nod at potential budding romance. And I find that I really want to see what happens with those two and how they take down terrible academics all across England. Yeah.
I have a theory that maybe she finds something in Queen Victoria's Book of Spells that helps her.
Ooh, let us hope. That's like a whole other novel, and I would read that as well. Excellent choice. Thank you, Karen. All right, Lady June Squirrel, if there was something, one of these stories that would inspire you to read a novel or something more by the author.
Well, we actually did read things by Leanna Renee Heber, which and the Eternophiles does mention Mosley. So and I, despite the fact that we didn't like that book when we read it many years ago, I went back and reread it and liked it better. And I can't remember what happens to Mosley, but I think he gets his comeuppance. but the one I'd like to have more of is Estella Saves the Village.
Yeah. Well, and Theodora Ghost is actually such an excellent writer. She really had developed since the time of writing this short story. And we loved her book, The Alchemist's Daughter.
It's a whole series. Yeah.
It's a fantastic series, but we read the first one in book club a few years ago. It was just excellent. Wonderful prose, interesting characters. It took me a minute on that book to like fully get into it, but once I understood what was happening, I was all in. Right, so good. Yeah. So
you have to watch out for the void. The void. The black holes of the void. If you can do something about that.
Yeah. Oh, that excellent suggestion, June. I love that idea of, I'd like to read more about this story too. So, all right, let's see. Alan, what is one of the short stories you'd like to read more?
I don't know the name of the story, but it was about the sort of gay theater romance. And
I don't remember. What
was the name of the story, please?
I'm like, I don't remember. I freshened my memory on some of the stories and not all of them as well.
So the story in here was a young boy is sort of taken, becomes the lover of a theater guy, and that's how he escapes his life as sort of a prostitute, which seemed like what he was doing. So I think that would make a tremendous full story.
Yes.
Where you hear about his life, and I can imagine meeting famous theater people from the era, and he sort of dumps his like current lover, and I think that would make a super story that would be novel length. It'd be really, really interesting historical fiction.
So Karen says that's what the La Reine d'Enfer is, that story, and the author on that, thank you, Karen, is oh my goodness. The author is Kath Koja or Koya. I'm not sure how that's pronounced. Have to look it up. But yeah, excellent. Well, we'll have to see if there's more by that person, and maybe we can read something by them in the future. Thank you, Alan. All right, I'm popping around to give different people an opportunity. Christina, what is one of the stories that made you want to read more in that world or more by that author?
I really enjoyed the vital importance of the superficial, the conversation back and forth, the writing style. It just really, it was a lovely read. That one did a lot for me. And I love when she was talking about, she was referencing one of the other authors that I've really enjoyed her works that were written in the same manner with the back and forth writing to each other. That was one thing I loved about the whole book, was that description afterwards, that little bit by the author talking about the story and how they wrote it. Really did a lot for me in a lot of those. So, but that one in particular, I was just looking up to see, and that author looks very prolific in her writing. So I'm going to have to go pick up some of her stuff. Ellen Kushner.
Yeah, Ellen Kushner is really prolific. I like her writing very much. And also Karen Stephen Meyer is an excellent writer. And so you missed it, but we determined that we need to read The Enchanted Chocolate Pot, which is another epistolary novel by Karen Stephen Meyer. And I don't think it's with her and Ellen Kushner. I think it's her and Delia Sherman.
It was one of the other authors, and I've read that one and loved it. That's exactly what I was thinking of, is that whole series.
So good.
And I think that's what she had referenced in her little description at the end, is that they had written together with those, and that she picked up the same method. So
Patricia Reed is the other.
Patricia Reed.
Yeah, I was just looking at, because that one I really liked.
Thank you, Robin.
Very much so.
Thank you, Robin. Excellent. And Bill said that Kath Koja, Bill, you're going to have to correct me on my pronunciation, mostly writes horror, and that is probably why I'm not familiar with them as an author. So thank you, Bill. All right. Good. So coming back round, Captain Cynthia, what was one of the stories that inspired you to read more?
Well, I would be in the camp of Queen Victoria's Book of Spells. That was one that drew me in the most, and that I would definitely love to see expanded, further upon.
Yes.
See that world.
Yes. I want to read so much more in that setting.
And I agree with you. It gave me Discovery of Witches vibes.
Yes. Yes. In order to sort of tide me over, I would read more Discovery of Witches or watch the show, whichever I need to do, sort of as a little snack until they can get around to magically making more of that particular story.
Yes.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you, Captain Cynthia. All right. Cindy Joy, what about you?
I think a lot of these stories did a really good job of just being a good short story and not needing more.
Yes.
But I think people have mentioned the ones that I would like to see as a whole book, which is Queen Victoria's Book of Spells, the importance of the epistolary book.
Yes, the vital importance of
vital
the
importance of the superficial. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I think.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think those are the two that I would most want to see expanded into novels.
Excellent. Thank you, Cindy Joy. Also, those authors do write novels, and all three are fantastic writers. So that's a delightful bonus.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can go find other novels by them.
Yeah, and the Discovery of Witches, I really think that it very much feels like Queen Victoria's Book of Spells.
Yeah.
And the series is like nothing like the book.
No, that's true. There's a lot of changes, but they're both enjoyable in their own way.
They are, but you have to like not expect it to be the same.
Right. I read the books before I watched the series, and I do like the sprightly pace of the series. That's nice. Also, the casting, some very pretty people to watch prance around in costume. That's always nice.
There is no way she has that much hair. I see her, I'm just like, nobody has that much hair.
I have had that much hair, honestly, but I couldn't stand it anymore. It was tangling me up so much when I tried to sleep. I had to remove
just the volume, because she's got a braid and it's like 4 inches across, and I'm like,
well,
there's extra hair in there.
There is extra hair in there. That is how that works. Yeah, some additional switches braided in.
Yeah.
So
anyway, those are my top picks for
excellent choices. All right, dear Laura, what did you think? Good night, Alan. It was so wonderful seeing you as well. Thank you for being here tonight. Good luck with all the things. Hope to see you next month. All right, take care. Laura, there you are. You move. When someone leaves, everyone moves.
I'm kind of on the same page as most everyone else, I guess. I really like the Queen Victoria's Book of Spells. I liked Vital Importance of the Superficial, and Estella Saves the Village. And I've read most of Theodora Goss's other things. I read all the Alchemist's Daughter books, and I really liked them. So yeah, that's
excellent.
Much it.
Oh my goodness. I think I've taken us over time a bit. So thank you, everyone. I was just so keen to keep going. And I honestly, I lost track of time. But so thank you for everyone who stayed a bit late with us. Right. So Laura, excellent suggestions. I love those. And Robin, Scone Mistresses, Cube of Delight. Both of you are so lovely. Going to call you the Cube of Delight now. And let's hear from the two of you. What is something that you would like to read more of, or read more by that author?
Yeah, again, because I'd heard of the Sorcery and Cecilia books, and I knew I knew of them, but I'd never read them.
Right.
And earlier, the one that's the terrible thing with that goes down in flames, and it's a great thing.
Yes, the from the catalog of the Pavilion of the Uncanny.
Yeah,
Marvelous.
that one's done as like letters, and like the way that it was sorted and done, I was just like, this is telling a narrative, but I don't feel it didn't flow very well. Whereas the other one that was by Caroline, and of course I don't have it up now, her, I felt like it flowed very well. And even though you had several characters involved in the letter writing, the flow felt really good, and I was like, oh, okay. And I knew that book was done as like letter writing between two, and I think that was also one reason why I've never picked it up, is I was just like, that can work, but it also can get just sort of a little bit like, I want to actually see what's going on with the characters. So I feel like I'm more likely to actually pick that book up, although I have so many other things I need to read.
You do, but that is a really delightful collection. There are a couple of books in that series, and they're marvelous. So yeah, highly recommend them. I think you'll like them. They give some finishing school vibes. So all right. Yes.
She stepped to the other room, so it'll be a few minutes. But
yes.
I will give you a moment of the cutest little snug bug.
Oh, hello, my darling little kitten. Very cute little cinnamon roll. Yeah. Yeah, no. Oh, and Cindy Joy mentions that Dangerous Liaisons was another one written as an exchange of letters. That epistolary novels can be excellent. They can be fantastic. But I think when they fall flat, they fall really, really flat. So, yeah. Robin, when your partner in delight returns, we will return to her. So just let me know. And
I'll pop it in the comments.
Yeah, perfect. All right. So who have I not asked? You all got shifted around, so I've lost track of time. Alicia, thank you.
And actually this works very well with what Robin just said. Because I think one of the weakest stories in the book was the third one with the carnival. Because it didn't have enough space. It seems more to me like a random scribbling of, okay, this is part of a story that can be a story, but I didn't finish the thought. I think maybe not a whole book, but certainly like a novella size. I think you could take that idea and grow it into a small novella.
Yes.
That would have been very horrible. Well, very dark and definitely horror. But I think also could have become something really wonderful. So
it could have. Well, and it's not, it doesn't necessarily have to be horror. I mean, it could be a comedy of errors. It could be a buddy adventure where she's like, oh, look, I'm running off with this delightful creature who poisons people for her free time. It's going to be wonderful. We'll be buddies righting wrongs. So charming. But no, it could use some more breathing room as a story. I think that's a good.
Yeah. I was just picturing this whole like Thelma and Louise go across the US and burn down carnivals kind of thing. So more like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Going from one carnival to the next. Just gonna set it
burning them down.
Fire.
Killing people.
So Bill reminds us that carnivals are common horror settings. So that's fun. Thank you, Bill. That's true. Yeah, all those clowns, right? Oh my goodness.
Clowns are freaking scary, man. I hate clowns.
They are. Oh my goodness. Same. All right, my darlings, we're going to wrap it up with our dear Bill. Oh, no. Who? Oh, your friend. Good. Yes, good. Robin.
Yes, she just came back.
Welcome back. Yes. So what is one of the stories or the writing style that would inspire you to read more in that world or by that author from the collection?
Still going back to the the namesake of the book. I liked her writing style. I don't necessarily want to read more about Queen Victoria, but I would like to read some of her other novels.
Yes.
I do really enjoy her writing style, and it flows well. It was kind of funny. I was not actually sure this. I still don't know the sex of the narrator of the story at this point, which I found very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty sure it's a guy, but I'm not sure.
So I assumed it was a woman, honestly.
So did I, but there is one line in there where he or she says that the boss hits on them, and they go, it wasn't because he was a guy that he wasn't interested. It was because he didn't really care about the sex. But that kind of implies it's a male, unless they are more of a lesbian than they are whatever. So like I said, I totally thought it was a woman, but then now I'm very ambiguous about who it is.
I think the ambiguity is delightful. I did read that as being sapphic and bisexual is how I took that. So a woman who is bisexual and, didn't give two figs. But I'm also reading it from my perspective. And so I think that ambiguity is lovely because it gives you some room to interpret. But it would be fun to learn more about the character, right?
Yeah, I would like to read more about the character. I'm not sure I care as much about Queen Victoria, though I would still read it if I saw more about her. Right. But I'm more interested in the narrator than I am in Queen Victoria.
Yeah, no, and so Delia Sherman has written some delightful things. I am just looking through some of her back catalogue. I recommended The Fall of Kings. She wrote that with Ellen Kushner, who's another one of the authors in this collection. And it's fantastic sword fantasy and pretty gay, actually. So, but I love it. And I also liked her novel, The Changeling. So anyway, she's got some lovely stories out there. So happy reading of Delia Sherman. Yeah. And I feel like we got a lot of, some people are saying they felt that, similarly about the character, that the narrator was giving some real femme vibes. So, Bill, you're going to wrap it up for us. What is something you would like to read more of?
Well, I now am given to understand that there's more about Mosley in the
Eterna Files.
Yeah, the Eterna Files. So I'll be pursuing that at a later date. But also, I did think Queen Victoria's Book of Spells, I think that could easily have been expanded into a novel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, and would not have to focus on Victoria, could have just focused on magical research, modern times, looking backwards.
The narrator character.
I don't even know.
Pretty.
But then again, my
sometimes
yes.
I add, other times I'll add acid
Dear,
to it.
Robin, my darling, you are not muted. So
Oh, my apologies.
it's all right. It's all right. So did I get around to asking everybody what they would like to read more of, except for Erin, who has not yet read the anthology? But I hope, Erin, you will like to read more steampunk with us. Excellent.
I think Terri.
And
and
Terri.
Go ahead, Erin, finish.
Yes.
No. I was going to recommend on the subject of anthologies that we'd like to see more of. Has anyone read this book, Clockwork Fairy Tales?
Oh my goodness. That is on my TBR. I have not read it yet, but I want to read it. So
I've read it several times. It's pretty good.
Excellent. Thank you for the recommendation.
It's a bunch of retellings, mostly of some of it's Hans Christian Andersen, some of it's de Grimm's, but it's basically fairy tales already written with a steampunk twist.
Ooh, I love that. Thank you. It's really, that's my jam. I love the fantastical mixed in with steampunk. So
imagine, if you will, the Pied Piper of Hamelin reset in the Wild West.
Who are the editors for that?
The editors are Stephen Ansack and James Bassett. The authors include, but are not limited to, K.W. Jeter, Stephen Harper, Kat Richardson, Paul DiFilippo, Jay Lake, Nancy Collins, G.K. Hayes.
Excellent.
Cool.
That's
Thank
quite a cast of authors, honestly. So thank you, Erin. Great recommendation. And Terri, I apologize so much. We're going to wrap it up with you.
Oh, I get to be the wrap up.
Yes.
Somebody just said in the comments that they always go away with a huge list of things to look up. And I am no exception to that.
Yes.
There's not enough time. There just isn't enough time.
There is not.
I always like to read a good Jane Yolen book.
Jane
Yolen. Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
so good. She's so good. Yeah. And she's right there with people like Delia Sherman and Ellen Kushner and some of the big hitters in this collection. She's fantastic. So
yeah, and they're often quick reads because often they're children's books, and that's nice.
Yeah.
Sometimes
you need a little something that you know is going to work out and is sprightly. Yeah, absolutely. Great recommendation. Thank you, Terri. Thank you, everyone. And again, thank you for running over with me. I'm a little bit chagrined, but not that shamefaced about taking us over. So thank you for taking this journey today in book club. We will be back next month on the third Sunday of the month at 4:30 p.m. Pacific time, 5:30 p.m. Mountain, 6:30 Central, a time in Australia that I don't know why it is without looking it up on Google, a 10ish. And I'm very excited to see you all next month. We're reading Copper Cove by our dear friend Robert Darlane. It's a cozy, charming read about found family and quirky engineers and baked goods. Copper Cove, let me copper like the color. C-O-O-P, yeah, C-O-P-P-E-R. Thank you, Bill. Copper Cove. Too many R's, not enough other consonants. So Copper Cove. Yeah, like the color. So, and it's very charming, very cozy, a wonderful way to wrap up our book club year together. We will return with more book club shenanigans officially in January, but the Grand Arbiter and I are planning something special for you with an author friend in December. So more to come about that, but it's not going to be our normal book club fare. This is extra. This is just a little holiday time gift to all of you from us because we can and we think you like it. So, my darlings, head out into the world. That is the one, Cindy Joy, that is the book. And Karen, I believe there is a physical version of it. I'm so sorry. I am forcing you into debt with book reading. I don't feel that sorry though, because I'm that's how I am. But anyway, my darlings, thank you so much for being here. Thank you to everyone watching on the Book of Faces, and we will return next month. All right, take good care of yourselves, everyone. Cheers.